class. So I'm Ryan, this is Derek, and today we're going to talk to you a little bit about Covey's seventh habit, which he calls sharpening the saw. But first we're going to show you a clip from one of my favorite videos, or movies and we're not going to tell you exactly what the significance of this clip is. We're actually not going to talk about it at all until the very end. So I want you guys to think about how this could correlate to what we talk about, and just have that in the back of your mind during our presentation.
Football is about controlling that anger. Harnessing that aggression into a team effort to achieve perfection. Coaches cut a player, they think he's not up to snuff. Think he's hurting the team. This is a public school program. I will never, ever cut a player who comes out to play for me. But when you put that uniform on, that tight uniform, you better come to work. We will be perfect in every aspect of the game. You drop a pass, you run a mile. You miss a blocking assignment, you run a mile. You fumble the football, and I will break my foot off in your John Brown hind parts. And then you will run a mile.
So, just again, encourage you guys to keep that in mind as we kind of go through this presentation. We've got a lot of good things we're going to talk to you about. It's habit 7, and it's called sharpening the saw. I just want to read from you the introduction that Covey gives so that you understand what he means by sharpening the saw. Suppose you were to come upon someone in the woods working feverishly to saw down a tree. What are you doing, you ask? Well, can't you see? I'm sawing down this tree. But you look exhausted. How long have you been at it? Well, over 5 hours, and I'm beat. This is hard work. Well, why don't you take a break for a few minutes and sharpen the saw? I'm sure it would go a lot faster. I don't have time to sharpen the saw. I'm too busy sawing. So as you can see from that example, the man should just be taking time to do what's proper and just sharpen the saw so it would make the process quicker. And that's the whole idea of habit 7, is taking that time to sharpen the saw. And habit 7 overall, being the last one, is the habit that makes all of this possible.
So the essence of sharpening the saw is to preserve and enhance the greatest asset that you as an individual have, and that's you as an individual. You have the power to make yourself better, and only you can do that. No one else can do it for you. So the 4 dimensions that Covey touches on that will lead to renewal are physical, spiritual, mental, and social and emotional. So basically, his whole point is that by sharpening the saw in all 4 of these areas in a balanced and wise way, you'll make yourself better as an individual.
So again, the first one is physical, and Covey just goes on to explain that it is effectively caring for your body. This is simple for us. We understand that you need rest, which we didn't get a lot of last night. You need food. You need just exercise. And so he goes into exercise more in depth and explaining 3 specific areas. There's endurance, flexibility, and strength. Now, endurance is just simply heart rate, being able to keep that up. For us at our age, it's generally around 120 beats per minute. Then there's flexibility. As we're learning that in our classes, you want to warm up, kind of stretch a little bit, loosen up before activity, so you don't pull something or overexert some muscle. And then strength just comes from muscle resistance exercises. Now, you have to keep in mind this book is for a very general population, so there's going to be specificity. So whether you're at a desk all day and just need some exercise that would be within your range of work, you're a track athlete and need a little bit higher exertion. And something to keep in mind is just simply that this is not a quick fix. It's not something you do overnight. It takes time. But over time, you will develop greater strength and be able to put more demand on your body, and things will become easier. And the key thing to keep in mind for the physical part of this is that it's for well-being. It's not the forces that keep you from exercising. You need to focus on the internal parts of that.
All right, so the second dimension is the spiritual dimension. When mastered, the spiritual dimension provides you with leadership in your life because it represents your core and your commitment to your value system. Covey touches on a story that really emphasizes what he means by really working to enhance your spiritual dimension. He calls it the turn of the tide story, and in basic overview is that a man is feeling spiritually just unfulfilled and he can't figure out what to do about it. So he goes to the doctor. The doctor tells him, okay, you're perfect physically, you have nothing wrong with your physical being, but you're very spiritually sick. So he says, go to a childhood place that was your favorite place as a child, and do these 4 tasks that I've assigned you over the course of 12 hours. So the man goes to the beach, because that's his favorite place, and then pulls out the first prescription, which tells him, listen. The next one tells him, reach back. The third one says to examine your motives, and the fourth says, write your worries in the sand. So this man just thinks back to everything that's made him happy, everything that's made him sad, just reflects on his whole life, and then examines the motivations behind everything he does. Why does he want to be successful? Why does he want to have this good family? What is it that really drives him? What's the driving force in his motivation for these things? And he finds that the driving force is a search for selfish pleasure for himself, and not a search to benefit others. So once he realizes this, he writes all of his worries in the sand, and walks away, and the tide rolls in and washes it clean. So here we saw a connection with Philippians 4:6, which says, do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. So basically, we just need to give all of our anxieties up to God. And just as the tide rolled in and washed away the sand, the writing in the sand, God will wash away all our anxieties and give us spiritual healing and a peace of mind. So, like the physical dimension, sometimes we may feel, like we don't have enough time to exercise, whatever. Also, sometimes we'll feel, we don't have enough time to pray every day or to do a devotion every day. But Martin Luther actually quotes that, I have so much to do today. I'll need to spend an extra hour on my knees praying. So basically, when you have so much going on that you just can't, you don't think you can find the time to pray, it's very important that you do add extra time in, and that'll give, and God in that way will empower you to be okay throughout the day. Now, Covey ends this section with a quote from David McKay, which says, the greatest battles of life are fought out daily in the silent chambers of the soul. So if we settle our inward battles, then we will find a peace of mind which will allow us to attain general happiness for others' good welfare.
Yeah. So the next section is the mental dimension, and basically Covey explains that as we get older, people start to get out of more formal education, which means their minds start to somewhat atrophy, and they're not focusing on essays or reading or proper stimulus of the brain. And so we tried to think of well, what does that mean to us as students? We've got we still have, some of us are going to grad school, some of it, we still got a year, some of us. So what does that mean for us? Well, how often do we get focused more on the grades than the actual knowledge, for the sake gaining knowledge for the sake of knowledge? That's something that we come into fault with. And another area is clearly just how much time we consume with TV or movies or the internet. I mean, how many of us know what hide your kids, hide your wife is, or like Charlie bit me, or the most recent event on The Bachelor. So basically, he talks about needing to have the wisdom to discern or discriminate between informing or inspiring or entertaining programs on television or the internet or even in literature. And he stresses how important it is to read. You know how often your mom tells you to read, or teachers tell you need to be reading the text. And he talks about right at the end that a person who doesn't read is no better than a person who can't read. So if you have it and you're not using it, what's the purpose? Just in retrospect, the last 3 sections we've looked at, physical, spiritual, and mental, actually all correlate with the habits 1, 2, and 3. And he calls this the daily private victory. This is essentially dedicating 1 hour each day to developing these 3 dimensions. And he believes that if this is done right, it will greatly improve the quality and effectiveness of all the other hours in the day.
So as Derek just said, the first 3 dimensions all correlate to the first 3 habits that Covey discusses. Now this 4th dimension, the social emotional dimension, deals with habits 4, 5, and 6, which as opposed to being about sharpening your personal attributes, deal with how you interact with other people. So whereas the other 3 habits must grow over time and take continuous, while the other 3 aspects must grow over time, this one doesn't take as much time to develop, but must be continually, daily sharpened. So in order to make it so that it comes naturally to all interactions with all people. So our interactions with other people are based off how we feel emotionally about ourselves and just about ourselves. So if we're personally insecure, we will have a tough time effectively interacting with others because we're not secure with who we are yet, and so how can we effectively give ourselves to others when we don't even know what we are to give? So a way to overcome personal insecurity is to make yourself feel like you are personally worthwhile and it would be worthwhile for others to know you. And so a way to gain this personal worth is to live a life of integrity in which you respect yourself, respect others, and respect interdependence between yourself and others. So another way is through your work, whatever you decide to do, if you're going to be a doctor, a commercial real estate person, wherever your life takes you, if your work makes a difference in another's life, then you will feel better about yourself, which will in turn lead to you being able to communicate better with other people. So once this happens, influence, not recognition, becomes your motivation behind everything that you do.
So that's it for the 4 dimensions, but then Covey goes on to give 4 more sub-dimensions, or things that just support the original 4. And the first is scripting, next is balance and renewal, and then a synergy and a renewal, and then there's an upward spiral. But to begin with, scripting, we actually all know what that is, because you know the term, but how often, or how many times in your life has someone told or believed in you when you haven't believed in yourself? And the effect that has had on your life, whether it's a coach, a parent, a brother, an older sibling, or whatever, they have been able to change you simply because of the way they view you. Now, Brian's got the rest.
So, the next thing that Covey discusses, another element, is balance and renewal and synergy and renewal. Balance and renewal basically says that all 4 of these dimensions need to have balance and be equally growing in order for you as an individual to be equally growing. So an example that I related to with this was maybe if you were going to sit down on a stool, you would want all 4 legs of this stool to be equal and balanced. And if one leg or one leg of this table was cut off, that table would be less sturdy and likely to fall. So synergy and renewal says that as we improve in one dimension, all the rest will also increase. So it'll just seep into all the other areas. So say you improve in your spiritual dimension, that improvement will seep into the physical, mental, and social, emotional, and everything will together grow.
And then the last topic there is just the upward spiral. Now he gives just 3 main cycles of that, which is this, that you are learning, committing, and then doing. And it's a constant cycle. So he gives the idea of it being an upward spiral. So we have a slinky here. You can imagine